All right. Welcome, everyone, on this beautiful Tuesday. It's Talk Tuesday. And today, one of our beautiful people here live said, what's the greatest you? What is that all about? So I'll just take a second to kind of share a little bit about, the academy that Mia and I, so lovingly put together and have made our life mission. The Greatest You Academy is a 12 module course that really helps people move from, kind of that place of, oh, I know there's something more in my life. I know that, there's something that my soul tells me that I'm meant for, my purpose, my joy, my, living every day from the highest version of myself and creating all that I want to create, whether that's in my relationships, in my career, in my health, in my spirituality, whatever it is, right? And so there's an actual very clear path that we can actually take, working through our limitations, working through our blocks, learning how to harness the power of our emotions, reclaiming our physical health, because body, mind, and spirit is something that we teach so much about, because you can't have one without the other, right? We need them all. All the pieces of us need to be healthy and thriving if we're going to live our greatest life. So focusing on living, connecting with the greatest you, and then allowing you to create the greatest life is what the Academy is all about. And these Talk Tuesdays, of course, are our opportunity to connect with people who are excited about that, who want to figure out more and be open to what is the greatest version of me. And today, as you saw in the email that went out, we're talking about patterns, right? About our story, and it's very, very important, because whatever our underlying story is, or our underlying patterns, that's literally what we create. That is who we are. But we also have the power to change that story and to change our patterns. And most of the time, we're just going through life. We're like, oh, this, child needs to go here. I need to get this work assignment done, or, whatever it is. And we're so focused on what we need to do, or what's coming into our space and reacting to that, unless we really open ourselves up and have some, guidance, and we might not ever look at what is my pattern, what is the story that I'm creating. It's an interesting thought that I have the power to create a different life, or my, the fullest version of myself. And one of the most important foundational pieces is really understanding your patterns, what you've been creating, who you believe yourself to be, because when we see those things and realize we have the power to create something different, that's where we can actually step into that space and begin to grow and create the lives that we were really meant for. So, today, as we go through this topic, I really want each of you, and certainly you on the replay as well, to think about, and you don't have to have the answer right now, but as we go through, I want you to really think about what's at least one pattern in your life, at least one pattern that you notice that exists in your life that you might want to change. Because it's great to hear things. It's great to show up in this space and to entertain these ideas. But if we aren't really taking that information and integrating it and looking at how to use it in our own lives, then, it's a fine way to spend time, but it's not powerful, not as powerful as it could be. And we're always about the action and the practicality to actually see results in your life. So today, I'm going to invite you to really think about your own life and your own patterns, so that this information can fall on you in a way that allows you to use it, right? And start to see at least the idea of how you'll be able to create something different, how a new story might be possible. So we all have patterns, right? Every single one of us. Some of the typical patterns, and I could go on, we could spend the whole time just talking about patterns that people will come and want to explore. But some of them look like, I always put others first. I'm always the last one to get my time and attention. believing that you can't have, creating a life of where you're just getting by. Like, yeah, okay, I had enough money this month or whatever, but not having and experiencing, knowing that you can have a tremendous abundance in all areas of your life. Settling in relationships where you're not fully valued, where you're not appreciated, where you're not on fire every day. Settling for work that is not purpose-filled, that isn't leaving you with a sense of meaning and fulfillment. Being stuck, right? Being stuck with your health, experiencing the same health challenges, the same relationship challenges, the same challenges over and over and over. These are your patterns, all right? So now it's useful to kind of step back and say, okay, well, how did I get into that pattern? Why is that my pattern? Why do I experience, relationships that are not fully fulfilling and meaningful? Why do I not have abundance in my financial security, or abundance in my bank account, or the health that I want? And it really comes from, our patterns are created by our belief system, by the stories that we create, right? So, we have these subconscious beliefs that were formed for us very often in our earliest days, right? So that may be experiences that you had that maybe created a pattern or a belief system for you that I'm not lovable. I don't deserve abundance. I'm not smart enough. I'm not successful enough. I'm not whatever to have this thing that I feel inside me is meant for me. I'm not meant to be healthy. I'm not meant for any of these things. And sometimes, very often actually, we're not really aware, like we're not sitting there thinking to myself, oh yeah, I'm not somebody who is supposed to have money, for example, or I'm not somebody who has that, big, glorious, big, bad, beautiful love. That's just not me. We might not even be thinking that on a really, truly conscious level, but the subconscious is always informing our actions, what we see, how we perceive the world and ourselves and other people. So it's kind of like wearing a pair of glasses, right? We put these glasses on when we're little to make sense of the world, and those glasses say, I can only have this much abundance. I'm not somebody who is, this powerhouse of a person who's capable of building an empire, right? Or whatever it is. It's just a limitation. And we don't even realize that it's there because we put these pair of glasses on and we've been wearing them for years and decades. And so we don't really know what it looks like to take those glasses off. I want to share with you a story, and this is a story that I heard from Mary Morrissey. And if you don't know Mary Morrissey, it's okay. She's a world-renowned speaker and has some really incredible work that she does in the world. And she told this story, and I don't necessarily, this is not word for word, but you'll get the gist of it. And she tells the story of this man who's new to a river. He's going to go fishing. He's new to this river. So he goes and he, sees a few people here and there, and he sets himself up on a free spot on the river, and throws his line in and he's fishing, and not a whole lot's happening, but he happens to look upstream and he sees a man there, an older man, and this man is catching these huge fish. He's like, wow, that's incredible. This guy is having such great luck. But then on further, noticing this guy, he sees that the guy is keeping the small fish, the ones that are like this big, and he's throwing away or throwing back into the river these great, big, incredible catches. And he's watching him, and this keeps happening. And so finally, his curiosity just couldn't be quiet one more second. So he goes to the fisherman who's catching these big fish, and he's like, excuse me, I have to know, like, I've been watching you and you keep catching these incredible fish, and the bigger ones you just keep throwing back into the river. You only keep the tiny ones. And I have to know, like, what is that all about? Why would you throw away the biggest fish? And the man looks at him kind of bewildered, like, this is a silly question. And he tells him, my frying pan is only 6 inches across. So this man is so limited, right? In his thinking, he's limiting himself by the size of his frying pan. Good things find him. Big fish find us all the time, and we don't even see them. We don't think that we can have them. We're so limited by our own frying pan. If something comes along, we don't even see it a lot of times. An opportunity, or we don't even look for it. We don't even look for it because we're like, oh, this is my frying pan, right? I'm entitled to this much health. I'm entitled to this kind of relationship, or this kind of work, or this much money. And if this is our frying pan, we're not going to see those opportunities. And sometimes those opportunities might come, but we can't hang on to them because it is in direct conflict with what we believe to be true for ourselves. Another really powerful example to help us understand this is 95% of lottery winners go bankrupt within, I think it's 5 years. Look up this statistic if it's interesting to you, because it's unbelievable that these people who, went from whatever level, say probably we know from people who buy lottery tickets, mostly middle or lower class people, and they suddenly have all of this money, and yet within just a few years they're bankrupt. And it goes back to this principle. If you believe subconsciously, I'm not somebody that has wealth, then you will find a way to make the decisions, to take the steps that will put you right back in your place, put you right back with something that fits with your 6-inch frying pan. That's how powerful our beliefs are. And again, they're often subconscious. We don't know we're doing it. We're not making decisions saying, oh, I want to limit myself. I want to keep operating in the same little tiny zone that I've always been in, right? It's happening on a subconscious level, but those subconscious beliefs are informing our thoughts and informing our actions. So we keep coming back to that space. You can think of it like a thermostat, right? My thermostat is set right here. And if it gets too hot, I'm going to bring myself back down. I'm going to constantly be in this comfort zone. Right. And it happens in relationships as well. We meet this awesome person, whatever, but we don't think we're worth it. And so we find ways to sabotage, or, whatever it is, in all kinds of areas. If we don't feel like this is meant for us, we will find a way. Some people call it sabotage, but it's really just coming back to that set point. This is my temperature. This is my frying pan, and my life has to fit in here, and I will make sure that it does. But of course, we don't have to live that way. I'm not suggesting that. That is how our brains work when we're not aware, when we're not paying attention. On autopilot, this is what happens. But you guys are here, and you're in this space, and you're opening yourself to the possibility that you could get a new frying pan, that you could change the setting on your thermostat. And that's a really powerful place. Obviously, we start with, what are my limiting beliefs that I want to see and change? And if you're wondering what your limiting beliefs are, and you're not quite sure, you can just look at the results that you've been creating in your life. Right. And this is an exercise that I really want to invite everyone to do. And that is, ask, where are the areas in my life where I feel like I'm meant for something more, or I'd like something more? And, we think about, this can be any area that you want. This is your inner wisdom guiding this exercise. But we think about, the common areas of life: relationship, health, your spiritual life, your work, your purpose, your fulfillment, your wealth, all of those things. And looking at those areas and saying, is this exactly where I want it to be? And if the answer is no, you can open up to, what is the belief that's stopping me? What do I believe about my ability to have incredible, passionate, loving, secure relationships? What do I really believe about it? Because if you're not experiencing it right now, there's a belief that you have and that you hold that was established for you some point in your younger life. Maybe that was as young as, birth. It's we don't always know exactly when or how, and a lot of times we do. But understanding that if you're not experiencing what you want in life in any area, there is a belief that's responsible for that. And so looking at the foundation and going to the belief and working with that to change it, to be in alignment with what you want, that is something that creates the tremendous power in our lives, and we can claim that. Let me give you just a couple of examples to show you how this works. I have a client, and her name Deanne, and when she was in kindergarten, they gave her this is such a silly story, but it's actually true. They gave her a picture of an apple, and they said, okay, color the apple red. All the kids in the classroom, right? So Deanne is like, oh, I don't like red apples. I like tangy, sour green apples. So why on earth would she color something that she had no desire to eat? So she's like, oh, forget that. Gets out her green crayon, colors the apple green. And believe it or not, this was an assessment that they were doing, and her teacher, based on that one picture, said, oh, Deanne is not someone that can follow directions. She must have some kind of learning disability, and was put into a class where for people with learning disabilities, because she colored her apple green. I mean, it's amazing to me to think about, that's how we're doing evaluations, and that could actually happen to a kid, right? But we followed that belief. And there were so many times in life where she held herself back unknowingly because she thought she was somebody who couldn't follow directions. And she also developed the belief that stepping outside of the box, right? Doing anything different, following your own instinct, and not just, doing exactly what everyone told you, is a dangerous thing. And that makes sense why her little kid brain would develop those beliefs, right? And of course that makes sense. She's 5 years old. So we walked through her whole life looking at the ways and what this belief created for her, the life that it created for her. It told her that, anytime she wanted to get healthier and claim a healthier body, lose some excess weight or whatever it is, that she couldn't follow the protocol that would lead her there because she didn't follow directions. I'm not somebody who can follow directions. When it came to, success in any area, I'm not somebody who can follow directions. And it caused her to constantly betray herself and her inner wisdom because she was only worried about following directions. I must follow directions. Oh, my intuition, my guidance is saying this. Nope. Last time I followed my guidance, right? I got put in a class that wasn't right for me because I colored that apple green. So you can see how it can be a very, innocuous event, just a little coloring thing, into a child of our beliefs. We're at that point in our lives, we are sponges just trying to make sense of the world. That's our job at that point. And our brains are specially wired to do that, to create these beliefs in that phase of our life. And it's great, when we're talking about making toast, or, is it a good idea to pull the cat's tail or whatever? Yeah, great. We learned that, right? And taking that forward, perfect. But when it comes to who we are and what we're capable of, what we're entitled to have, these beliefs are like the frying pan. And if something doesn't fit that little vision, right, then we have to say no to it. And it's a very sneaky thing because we don't usually know that we're doing it, right? We think, why would I do that? Of course I want loving, secure, incredibly connected relationships. Of course I want more wealth and stability and all of that. So we don't necessarily know we're doing it. And I'm kind of curious, as we're, opening this discussion and kind of thinking about it, has anyone kind of got in touch with, what maybe one of the limiting beliefs or even just the patterns? Because remember, we start with the pattern and then look for the underlying belief. It's usually easier to discover that way. Are any of you kind of noticing like, oh, I see a pattern for me? Or, yeah, I know I have this limiting belief about what I'm entitled to, about what's possible for me. You could put it in the chat or just share it with us either way.
I think I'm realizing that a lot of the health issues coming back to a feeling of I'm not worthy. Like I'm not worthy of good health and a happy and abundant life. And so that's manifesting as illness to keep me safe because I don't feel worthy and safe to go out into the world. So it's a protection mechanism, which goes back to childhood from being abused. The only time I was safe was when I was injured enough that I was physically removed from my mother's house. Then I was safe. But I had to get injured first enough to be able to be safe.
Yeah.
So along the line, the sickness and injury correlates with being safe and not feeling worthy.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for sharing that and for bringing that up, because you're absolutely right that these beliefs are meant to keep us safe, right? You can see that in your example. If I'm sick, then I get to go to a safe place. So sick is safe, right? And it's so wild to think like in our adult life that we're still operating from that system, because now that doesn't make any sense. But it doesn't have to. If it's our established belief, it's going to continue until we can really, step back and look at this and change it. And it's more than just awareness of it that will change it, right? And the same is true in the example that I gave you. Deanne was operating. It was safe to follow the directions. It was safe to not be someone who could do that. That's consistent with the way I felt safe in that situation. And so they're very powerful, right? Because anytime you're going against your own safety, it is super challenging, right? To go into that insecure place, even though it's for your better life, and you want it, it can still feel really scary to walk into that new space. And these are things that are important to understand as you, are opening up and being willing to look at these beliefs. It's important to understand why it's hard. And it's hard for two reasons, at least. The first one is just what we're talking about now. It's not safe, right? That belief was formed to keep me safe, to help me make sense of the world. So adopting something new is going to feel weird. I have to stand in that place and recognize, oh, yeah, I feel it. There's a sense of a lack of safety for me with feeling or being healthy. Am I going to be safe if I'm healthy? And it requires us to really take care of that part of us that's feeling the fear. And the second reason why it's hard is just because we have the neurological networking, right? That says, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is my experience. And if we want to have a different experience, then we have to create a new neurological network in our brains, right? That follows something else. But the good news is we can do that. Right? We know that all of you here, you're all in the space where you've heard of neuroplasticity. You know that we can change the neurological networks in our brain, and no matter how old we are, no matter what's going on, we can do that, and we can do that a lot easier if we're not in the place of overwhelm and stress, right? And that's something that we talk a lot about in the academy, because we know that transformation doesn't happen to a system that is stuck in survival. So that is another aspect that supports this work, the repatterning, and all of the other work that you do, And it really does come down to the feeling safe to let go of that belief, right? That's a big part of it. So there's a lot of systems out there, and they're not bad by any means, but they're more geared towards, okay, get your new belief. Now believe it every day. Look in the mirror and say it. And those things are good. Yes, do those things. But we have to deal with the fact that it might not feel safe. And if it doesn't feel safe, we're not going to accept it. It's not going to be a new neurological pathway that we can follow if we don't feel safe following it. So I think there's, again, that work has a place and it's important, but the underlying safety has to be there before that can be effective. So I work with a lot of people who are like, I'm so frustrated. I've been doing my mantras. I've been doing this. I've been doing that, and nothing is happening. And so by showing them, how important it is for us to have that sense of safety around it, then we can open up and be feel safe to adopt something new. Norma says she loves Mary Morrissey. Absolutely. She's just an incredible teacher. And then we have the comment. It says, I think for me, it's not fully as worthy and really understanding the value system, really knowing how to establish setting boundaries. Yeah. And not feeling guilty for taking care of me. Absolutely. That's huge. That's the belief system that either it's safe when I put you first, right? And that's so common. I would say that probably most of us can resonate with that on some level, right? It's a spectrum. Some of us are like, it just feels kind of itchy, and others of us don't even know what we need or want because we're so concerned and have the belief system that I have to worry about you or everyone else first before I can worry about me. Otherwise, you're not going to like me. Lack of safety, right? Or I'm not valuable to you, right? Kind of the same thing. It all comes back, regardless of the different types of reasons we could say that that's happening. It all comes down to that sense of safety. Like, I'm going to be alone, right? If I don't do this, everybody's going to leave me. Nobody's going to want to be around me. I have to do that, or I'm a bad person if I don't do it. And if I'm a bad person, then of course, nobody's going to like me, and there I am alone again, right? Because we are biologically wired to be a communal species. It's really important for us to fit into the group, because if we were on our own, if we were ever, put outside the group, our chances of dying were like basically 100%, because a broken ankle, a bad cold, anything that would prevent us from being able to go out and hunt our food or make us easy prey, right? We would have died. And so brilliantly, we are wired to stay in the group, there's a certain sense of going along with the crowd and all of that. So it's interesting, that is kind of our natural patterning. But now, in these set of circumstances, all right, we break our ankle. Even if we're alone, we've got our phone, and DoorDash can be there in half an hour, right? So we don't need each other for survival necessarily. And that's not to say we should be totally self-sufficient, because we will always thrive in community and in beautiful relationships. But when we're not secure in that, and when we have the patterning that you're more important and it's safe to take care of everybody else and all of that, then those relationships aren't fulfilling and we don't thrive in them, right? And as a matter of fact, actually at just an hour ago, I had a beautiful call with a client who was sharing with me how difficult it is to feel connected with people who aren't aware of their own needs, and who don't pay attention to their internal world, who are all externally focused. What do you need? What do you need this experience? What should I say to please you? How should I act in order for you to be comfortable and for you to be happy? And we were talking about the fact that, when that's the case, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but those people are only showing you this tiny sliver of themselves, right? And so that's how much of that person we can connect with, right? Because they're only showing us this little piece. Most of it is just, what do you need, and outwardly focused. And we're not really getting anything of them. And so when we stand in a relationship and connected to ourselves and our own needs, and owning that and able to set those appropriate boundaries, then we're open with those people, and they can feel connected with us. We hold the belief that this is what I need to be in order to have good relationships. If I took care of myself, if I were to be aware of what my needs were and set boundaries, then this relationship might go away. But the opposite is true. I can't have and experience connected relationships until I have those boundaries, until I have connection with myself, and then I bring that into the relationship. So safety tells us, right? That old little kid programming, however it was created for you, that little kid programming says, you got to please everybody, right? And that happens a lot for kids because they see their parents and they want to, oh, when I do this, when I please them, then they hug me and they smile and they tell me they love me. And when I don't, when I follow myself, I get the scowl and the go to your room or whatever. So naturally we think, oh, pleasing people, good. Standing up for myself or being connected for myself, bad. They take their love away. And we don't know how to navigate that. So a lot of times we just kind of, shrink and say, okay, I like this feeling better. Because I don't have the skill set to understand it and know how to navigate it in a way to get my needs met. This feels better, right? This fawning, we'd say, this pleasing, this people pleasing feels better because at least I get a smile and a hug. Whereas otherwise, I get the scowl and I don't feel safe because you, a parent, a caregiver, are responsible for providing for me. I can't provide for myself. I'm a kid. So it's, really fascinating and obvious how these things come to be. And the brilliant thing is that now, as grown-up conscious beings with tools and resources at our disposal, we get to look at those and just ask, which ones are good, which ones serve me, which ones create the life that I want and feel good, which ones don't serve me anymore, and then how do I go about changing them. So looking at this question, the first starting point is, what are the beliefs that I hold that make me think that I can't have these things, or that are just limiting me? What is my 6-inch frying pan? What is that all about? What is my belief system? Looking at where it comes from. So noticing, just like I was giving the description of, the child who's in that situation where anytime they were not people pleasing, not kind of like the perfect children or whatever, they got the scowl or the, sent to their room or whatever. Or the story about Deanne, or the story Nicole shared with us, that I was only safe when I was hurting and sick. So understanding where it came from, and noticing, like, or it's just programming, right? I was just told from my parents, from my siblings, from my religion, from my peers, from our mass marketing that we're exposed to every minute, TV shows and commercials, everything, teachers, coaches, all of it, right? They all had a part in creating our belief system. And we can, again, take a look at that and ask, how is it serving? What is it creating? What might I want instead? So after understanding where it came from, and I'll just say, there's two schools of thought with respect to looking at the past, right? Some people are like, you got to see it all, you got to have it all figured out, and you got to resolve it all, right? And then on the other end of the spectrum is, oh, that's the past. We should just, move on from there and not look at it at all. And Mia and I fall somewhere closer to the middle, because if you don't know where it came from, then it's really hard to look at it and question it and say, oh, that's not true. When you can look at it and see it and know where it comes from, it's so much easier to say, oh, I see. It was based on my little kid brain, on faulty reasoning, the best I could do at that time. but it doesn't make sense for me to want to continue it. And that really helps with overcoming the element of feeling safe to believe the new thing. So for example, whenever I talk about this, I often tell you guys a story about when I was in, I don't know, pretty much my whole grade school career. There's this awful little boy on the bus, and every morning I would get on the bus and he'd have some comment about me. I was a chubby kid, and he would say things like, one day I was so excited because I did this new hairstyle that was like this ponytail and it came out like this, and I thought it was, 80s cute, and got on the bus and he said, "You look like a pig with a fountain on your head." And it was like that kind of stuff day after day. And it really, created the belief for me, I'm like this, outsider. I'm not a cool kid. I'm not somebody who people, look at and respect, admire, whatever. And as I was doing this work many years ago, thinking about where did these beliefs came from? And there was his face, telling me these things. And it was so funny. It's like, really? I'm going to base my life on Troy Weirman over here? Is that really what I'm going to make my life about? So I think it is very valuable. It also gives you a lot of compassion for yourself to know where it came from. Oh, the way I beat up on myself, the way I don't have to judge myself. I know that, it came from this little vulnerable part who had those experiences. So there's definitely value in understanding where these beliefs came from. We don't dwell there. We don't have to resolve everything. I don't have to go find Troy and, speak my truth and get him to say he's sorry, and none of that, right? But there is value in it nonetheless. So first of all, what are your beliefs? And that can be a process in and of itself, so don't worry if you're not, I'm not really sure exactly what it is. Understanding where it came from. Don't worry if you don't understand where it came from. It's not 1,000% essential, but it is helpful if we can kind of understand, or at least have some idea of how it came to be. And then and this is another skill, we get really in touch with your inner wisdom so that we can access the truth. Is it true that you're only safe? We have another one in the chat, and this is a great one to use for this example. When you tune in and really ask your inner wisdom, your inner goddess, your queen, right? Is it true that I'm only safe when I don't ask for help? Is it true? Yeah. And so she shares she was neglected as a child, became so self-sufficient. Yeah, it is so vulnerable when we need. So aside from even being able to ask for it, just being in that space of knowing that you have these needs, that how terrifying to even recognize that I have needs, because as a kid, not having those needs met, what's your choice? You can't meet them for yourself. So you can either sit in that space of awareness of how unsafe and threatened you are, or you can shut down and say, yep, no needs here. I don't have needs. Doesn't that feel so much safer, right? To not have needs. So this is a great example of, how we carry it forward. And, it can be a couple of things: not being willing to recognize the need because of that painful vulnerability. And also just the difficulty in asking because you probably didn't develop that skill as a kid in those experiences. You didn't know how to express the need. And given that you were quite certain that even if you expressed it, the answer was going to be no, or it wasn't even going to register. What a difficult thing to do. So your response was brilliant, right? For the kid, that was the exact right response. So there's no blame in it. It was perfect. It was brilliant. But we don't have to keep operating from that same place. That's the key, right? We know why these things get established. We know why we give ourselves these little 6-inch frying pans, but we can change that. We can choose to create a new belief system. And let's see, the next comment. This is so interesting. I was just pondering to myself my employment and leadership, and how, in order to have everyone on the same page, it starts in the training with onboarding, and how I can step into leadership while maintaining and managing my personal life and family as well. Yeah, to be able to provide and help my husband pay bills, spend family time together, travel, explore life. Yes, as it was meant to be. That is such a beautiful acknowledgement of, this is your inner wisdom speaking. This is your authentic self or your greatest you speaking to you, telling you what is possible. What is possible. And so, the part of you that established the belief is, still going to show up a little bit and say, oh, but what about this? Oh, but if that's dangerous, and so we have to keep coming back. And that's step number 3 here is, we keep coming back to this wisdom, making space to hear the truth. What is the truth? What is my truth? What do I really want? And then accepting that that is meant for me and I can create it. My beliefs say, no, you can't because of this, because this is true, right? But we know that isn't true, that we can listen and trust that deeper inner wisdom, that authentic self. And on that point, I'll just say, me and I have an event starting on Monday the 8th. And hopefully you've received an email. We'll continue to send out emails until Monday so that you can sign up for this event. And the event is called Who Am I Really? And it is helping you discover this truth that we want to keep coming back to, getting you in touch with your authentic self, your inner wisdom, so that you can know what beliefs you want to form, right? If you don't know where you're headed, it can be hard, obviously, right, to create a new belief system if you don't know what you want that belief system to be. What is my truth, essentially? So that's the challenge is coming up next week. It's just a 4-day exploration of this little question. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Aubrey, I do want to make sure we have your right email. And I think you can send it to me privately in the chat if you want to. I'll write it down just to make sure that we have you. You got the link for today though, yeah? Okay, good. Now, once and this is the part that I think really is important to mention, because we have to anchor that belief in, right? We get the new belief, we navigate that, we develop the skill of tuning in and really understanding what is true, what I want to believe. But we don't just do that once and then everything changes, right? Not usually anyway. Do we have the power to do that? Yeah, I think so. But usually what has to happen, we have all of this programming, right? This could be decades where I've believed that, I can't acknowledge my needs. It could be decades that we thought I have to worry about and make sure everybody else is happy. And I can't set boundaries because somebody might not like it. If we've done that for years, the whole neurological network that you've created is all built around that. So we don't just flip a switch and suddenly start thinking, in every situation all the time, our new belief that we're trying to adopt, right? We have to create a new network for that belief. It's the same. And it's also kind of, sometimes people hear this and they're like, oh, I have all this programming I have to undo. No, it isn't that hard, but it's important to understand what's happening so that when you fall back to your old patterns, you don't beat yourself up and say, oh yeah, this isn't working. I knew I couldn't do it. That's for everybody else. I'm not strong enough, or whatever it is. It's just going to take some time and some consistent effort. So we call this step really anchoring in your new belief. And that looks like at least 3 things. This is all obviously a little tiny smidge of what these 2 modules are all about in the Academy, but still there's a lot here and a lot that you can take forward just by understanding these 4 steps. So in this last step of anchoring in your new truth, it requires number 1, repetition, right? You develop the old network through repetition, and you can develop the new network through repetition. But that's not the only tool that we're going to use, because we can accelerate results much, much quicker when we bring in the other tools as well. So looking for evidence is the next one. We can call it evidence journaling or belief stacking. You go out in the world looking for evidence that it is safe to be healthy. that it is safe to set boundaries, and you journal about why this is true, right? I gave you some thoughts on why it's true that your relationships will be better and more connected and more real when you set those boundaries and bring your whole self to a relationship. So understanding and really looking for the evidence in your life. See, right now we have a bias. We have something called confirmation bias. So whatever we believe, whatever our old system it was, we go out in the world and we only see the evidence for that. And we're actually tuned out to any evidence that's contrary. So we're literally, and if we're just going along and going through the automatic life, right, which so many people do, if we're just on autopilot, then we only see that which confirms my old belief. But when we start to open to it, we can totally see evidence that proves our new belief is true. But we have to be open and aware to it. So for example, if someone, one person might go to LA and be driving on their streets and be like, oh my gosh, I knew it. Everyone always told me LA drivers are the worst. They're the rudest people. So they're only going to see, the person who cuts them off or the person that flips somebody else off or whatever. That's what they're going to see. That's going to be their experience. It's going to be confirmed for them. But if they have the belief, oh my gosh, for being such a big city, everyone has told me what courteous drivers people are in LA. And these two people could be riding right next to each other, have the exact same external experience coming in, but the one person is going to see everybody who is cutting everybody off and honking and all of that. And the other person is actually going to see, oh, they let me over, and they're going to let people over, and they're going to have a whole different experience based on what their belief system is going into that space, going into and driving on the freeway system. And that's going to be true for us. We're going to find, when we're open to it and looking for it, we're going to find evidence that this new belief is true. And in doing so, and keeping a record of that, that's one of the ways that this new belief is going to become our reality. And as we do this, we're going to see that the old neurological network is going to be, it's going to grow grass, right? Because we're not using it. And over time, it becomes less and less like a truth until the point where you can look back at it and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I thought that. It feels so weird. It feels so foreign right now. So even if today it feels like, oh, I can't even question it. Like, of course it's true. And some of the hardest ones, I remember for me, the hardest one to overcome was if you don't do things for people, then they're not going to like you. And I had such a hard time overcoming that one. And it just felt so unsafe to even question it. And because our experiences, people thank you. They say, oh, how much they appreciate it and things. So it's really hard to create a different experience. But it absolutely can happen. It just, some we can actually move through very quickly, especially when we have support and guidance and, insight. And others might take a little longer, and that's all okay. It's we can still see results and we can still see changes even while we're on the path to creating a new belief or a new pattern. And the last thing there I'll say with respect to anchoring this new belief in is start acting like that person, right? Fake it till you make it, kind of. And that's not, in and of itself, that's not a total strategy, but mixed in with everything else, creating some real time. How would this person dress? How would this person eat? How would this person relate? Really thinking about that and stepping into it even before you feel like that's you, right? If I'm somebody who said, I want to be someone who has more confidence, say, then, you show up. How does a person who has more confidence, how do they dress? How do they, walk down the street? How do they interact with people? Even when it feels a little foreign, leaning into that newness really helps make it your reality, makes it something that you can start to believe in, right? We're looking for these experiences that allow you to grow that frying pan. I'm going to write down this email right now so I don't forget. So, I hope that thinking about this and talking about this today will give you all the opportunity to get excited about what is possible. If I've created this, right, whatever it is, my current experience, then I can absolutely create something else with by changing my belief system. And it's such a powerful thing that we can do. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with the work of Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's got several amazing books that really talk about how we get into our ruts, how we wake up every morning in the same space and we, take the same route to the bathroom, and we do that. We're running on a computer program, right? And we have the ability when we're conscious and when we have methods that we can actually put into place that says, okay, I want to change my computer program to be something that's more in alignment with me and with the things that I showed up in this world to do, right? Every single one of us were given, our own beautiful purpose and a way to contribute. And when we can understand that, we're not a victim of our circumstance. We are the creator of our circumstance. And even though that maybe when we talk about that, it's like, ooh, that's a lot of responsibility. It may feel kind of heavy, but at the same time, you don't have to achieve it overnight. But knowing that that is possible for you, every single thing, I don't care what it is available to you in some way. And we're definitely here. That's what the Academy is all about. And that's what the event next week is about, is helping you see what that is, because that's the first foundational piece to being able to create it. So I'd love to open it up, just see if anybody has any questions. We have just a couple of minutes here in our hour, but I'm excited for you guys to take this with you and really start to look at it. And, we bring these topics up, not so that you can, feel inspired or open up some kind of space within yourself for 5 minutes after this is over, right? We really want to make this something that you take into your life, something that at least opens the door to the next step and then the next step. So we are here to support you in that. So using, you can always respond to us by email, using the Facebook group, the Greatest You Revolution Facebook group, to interact with us. There's a great place to interact, because then other people are like, oh, I thought I was the only one who did that. Or, ooh, that's good, I'm going to look at that myself. So it supports the broader community, and it just brings an incredible energy, right? When we're all in there. And that's me and I's goal, to work with as many people as possible. Yes. But also just to plant seeds in more and more and more people in the world. Like that in and of itself is a huge accomplishment. So we always, ask people, get in the Facebook group. Let's create a community and change the world, because I do believe that we can. Says Aubrey says she's talking with another mom about self-love. Yes, self-love is something that is so important. And Norma says she's doing the course in the Academy are excellent. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Listening to books on Audible. Absolutely. We have to feed ourselves, right? Information. That's actually another one on the anchoring. I try to keep it simple for our talks on Tuesday, because, what I'm giving you is just this little sliver of the bigger topic. But feeding ourselves messages that reinforce our new belief is so important. I love it. All right. Any questions before we move on and get into our day of creating new patterns and beliefs? Well, I appreciate you guys being here, and I hope that all of you are signed up to be with us next week for the free 4-day event on authenticity. Who am I really? Yeah. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. So good to be with you.
Do you know what time it is next week?
It's going to be at this time each of the days. So
Okay,
yeah, so 11 Mountain, 10 Pacific, and 1 Eastern.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. I look
All
forward to
right.
it.
So it's
Thank you
gonna be
guys.
on Tuesdays.
Yeah,
For
Monday.
how many weeks?
Well, we're here every Tuesday. But next week is special 4 day. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we'll have something that will be on the same, well, right along the same lines on this Who Am I Really authenticity. Yeah.
Okay. And then are we able to have access to this video recording?
Yes,
can
we'll
go
send
back.
it out. Absolutely. We will send it out through the email list, the same email that you got the Zoom link from. You'll get the recording.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I
it'll
don't know
also
if
be,
I'm not sure if I have the same email. Facebook is being weird right now. So that's why I need verification
okay,
of my email. Because I
gotcha.
got it from Facebook.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I will
Yeah.
definitely just reach out and send you, make sure that you're in the system so that you can get the recording. And also you can go to The Greatest Jew, our YouTube channel, because that's where we put these recordings. We'll send the link, but know that it's
Please
also
do.
there. And also
Please.
past Talk Tuesdays are there. So if you have time and interest, you might be able to find some subjects on the YouTube channel that you'd like to watch.
Please
Oh, it's
send the
just the
link.
YouTube?
Yeah. The Greatest
Oh, I never
Jew.
knew. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So subscribe too, because that always helps us. We'll show up in the feed for people when they're, looking for topics on breaking patterns or limiting beliefs. The more subscribers, the more views, all of that, then our day or our videos can show up for more people. So if that's something that you would consider, subscribe to the channel and let's together create more community, more people thinking about these things and believing in themselves and loving themselves. And Audrey, great job being out there, Aubrey, spreading that, and reminding everybody, right, about the importance of self-love and how it's possible and all those things. So keep up the good work.
It's a necessity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We talk a lot about it in the academy. So happy
Yeah,
to
send me information on the academy too.
absolutely. I'll put together all kinds of things and send it to you and make sure that you're on the list.
Yes.
Okay.
I took
perfect.
a coaching certification for life coaching and business coaching.
Oh, awesome.
So
So you're looking to build a business.
that and build community and just try and reach out and help touch somebody's life, like how the universe and God has touched my life.
Yes. Oh my gosh. What a great fit this is. So happy to have you here in this community. And yeah, I'm going to reach out. I'll put together some things.
Here. I'm thankful that I'm able to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, my dears. Much love to you all. I look forward to next time.
Yes.
Okay.
Have a beautiful day, everyone.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.